It's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America and around the planet, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome. Good morning. Thanks for being here this morning. I'm just reading here this from the Seattle Times. Plot twist. You ready, Eric?
All right.
Washington has a law against felons running for office. You know where this is going.
Of course.
If local Republicans knew it was good for them, they would now move to drop Donald Trump from Washington's fall ballot. I know they won't. They're in too deep. So here's another reason to dump Trump. If Republicans don't do it, somebody else probably will. It turns out Washington has a law on the books against convicted felons running for office. It was first established back in Washington. We can go through this entire thing.
Yeah.
I believe this may be a 9-0 Supreme Court vote again. The U.S. Constitution does not bar a president. A president's different than a local candidate.
Right.
As we found out. So,
right.
But that thought process is in their head again. So
yeah, of course.
Here we go.
And the story over the weekend, too, he might not be able to vote in Florida. DeSantis comes out and says, no, I'm in charge of the committee that will make that decision, and we think that'll be a clear decision. He won't have a problem voting. It's, I don't know. I guess it's what you do. If you're on the left, you're just going to pretend like this is a permanent thing, that this is a permanent decision. But quite frankly, politically, they only need to get the job done between now and November. That's all they care about. They see what's going on right now. They see their own candidate failing drastically. So this is what you do. Can't win on the merits? Well, put your opponent in jail. And that's where we are. Not going to work. I'm convinced this is not going to work. So the nonsense part of it, though, is definitely going to continue. All these kind of stories here. You know, it was always going to be a circus. Sorry, Governor Hochul, we know who the real clowns are.
Well, like I said, when Stephanopoulos was, yesterday, was saying, is America going to elect a felon? Like, that's the story.
Yeah.
The story is actually the rot in the justice system, the banana state of New York, making up laws as they go along. And it's just, that's the thing. It's not, and we criticized Jonathan Turley earlier. Most of the time we agree with him, but he said, the U.S., the courts can still fix this mistake. It's not a mistake. It's not getting an addition problem, a math problem wrong.
It was deliberate.
Yeah, it was deliberate. And now are they going? I just like this one here. There they go again. Senate Democrats urging the Justice Department to prosecute collusion and price fixing in oil markets, which they claim is raising prices at the pump. Behold, the political left's version of Stop the Steal, a device that blames corporate greed and malfeasance for inflation. Donald Trump can at least point to his opponent's efforts to prosecute him as evidence that they are trying to steal the election. Where's the evidence that oil companies or other large corporations are swindling customers? There is none. Zero. Yet Democrats and President Biden on down promote this conspiracy theory to dupe voters. This is from the Wall Street Journal, by the way, an op-ed piece by Alicia Finley. True. Profits at some food retailers have increased. Kroger's profits rose by nearly a third between 2019 and 2023, owing largely to inflation increasing its sales, but net profit margin is still less than 2%, far slimmer than the 8% average for all U.S. firms. On the other hand, some retailers such as Stop and Shop and Dollar Tree are closing hundreds of stores because of inflation and shoplifting. Businesses are victims of Mr. Biden's inflationary policies, too. Retailers are getting squeezed by higher costs for products, labor, energy, rent, and insurance. Since the start of the pandemic, food prices at stores have increased 25%, less than the bump in the average grocery worker's salary, which has gone up 33%.
Oh.
And farm product prices, 32%. Large retailers like Costco, Walmart, and Amazon can negotiate discounts with suppliers to keep prices down. Progressives think this is unfair. Hence, Ms. Warren and others insist that the Federal Trade Commission require that small and large firms generally pay the same price for the same products. Well, what would that do? That would destroy the business model of the big box stores while increasing prices for everything from diapers to milk. So we've talked about this before with the left. They always claim our goal is to lower prices, but what they would actually do would raise prices. We go back to Obama in Houston in 2008, I believe it was, early 2008. Who believes that gasoline prices are too high? Yeah. Everybody cheers. Who wants them to come down? If I become president, I'll put a windfalls profit tax on the oil companies. Yay! So he just asked them if prices were too high. Yes. Would they like them lower? Yes. And then he told them, communicated, I will raise them, and they all cheered.
Yay.
That's why Democrats believe the people that vote for them are complete idiots.
Yep. In a city that is built and thrives on oil production, by the way.
As they write, this would destroy the business model of big box stores while increasing prices for everything from diapers to milk. Democrats also want to ban food manufacturers from paying supermarkets for better shelf placement. Supermarkets would then raise prices to compensate for foregone revenue. Democrats have even introduced the Price Gouging Prevention Act, which would empower the FTC to impose de facto price controls on food, gasoline, and other products. A result, widespread shortages. Let us complete government controlling the means of production.
Yeah.
Mr. Biden also joined his party of inflation deniers. In March, he convened a strike force to root out and end illegal corporate behavior that raises prices for Americans through anti-competitive, unfair, deceptive, or fraudulent business practices. California Governor Gavin Newsom last week echoed left-wing conspiracy theories in a letter responding to a recent Life Science column. The governor took issue with my argument that his climate policies will raise gasoline prices in California and neighboring states. Mr. Newsom denied that climate policies or mismatches between supply and demand are to blame for California having the highest gas prices in the country. Instead, he faulted a highly concentrated and opaque market that lets a handful of mega profitable oil companies upcharge tens of millions of people. Talk about paranoia. Do oil companies want to upcharge only the state of California? Because that's where the price is high.
Yep.
So are the oil companies only going after California? Is that it? Because they have the highest gas prices in the nation consistently. The truth is that the state, by the way, Newsom's lying. Climate change policies absolutely cause an increase in traditional fossil fuel energy.
Of course.
That's the whole point. The truth is the state's climate policies have caused smaller independent refineries to shut down, leaving less spare capacity to increase output when bigger ones experience outages or undergo maintenance. Subsequent supply shortages cause prices to spike. Despite numerous investigations, neither California nor the federal government has found any evidence of price fixing in oil markets. A San Francisco Federal Reserve study last month refuted that inflation has been caused by price gouging. That's the Federal Reserve. As the researchers explain, companies over the past 3 years haven't marked up prices above their production cost any more than in past economic recoveries. What's fueling inflation? Excessive fiscal and monetary stimulus. Despite higher interest rates, monetary conditions aren't especially tight by historical standards. Homeowners and businesses also continue to benefit from debt that they refinanced during the pandemic at historically low rates, which continues to support consumption. Even after Congress's $5 trillion pandemic splurge, Washington continues to post enormous deficits projected at $1.5 trillion this year. Mr. Biden continues to add the inflationary fire with new rounds of student loan cancellation, welfare expansions, such as letting states use Medicaid dollars to buy mini fridges and provide housing subsidies for beneficiaries rather than concede that their policies shortchange Americans. Democrats scapegoat businesses. No wonder CEOs are warming to the idea of a second Trump term. Well, but it's the same as Trump. All right, we're blowing it. We can't win. Let's find a person. We got this person, and let's make up a crime. Same thing here. What's the difference? Oil companies. We all hate oil companies. I don't know why. By the way, if you look at inflation, gasoline prices are lower than most products over that time period. If you take gasoline prices from 20 years ago till now.
Right. Yeah, if we were paying, $7, $8, $9 a gallon,
we're not.
That would be one thing.
Right. And the states that have the highest gasoline prices are the ones that don't have refineries.
Right.
And also add tons of taxes for climate change policies. End of story. We all know it. Every Democrat listening right now knows it. Every Democrat listening right now knows that Gavin Newsom. Every Democrat in California listening right now knows that Gavin Newsom was lying.
Yeah. Look, he's looking to save his own hide, his own party in that state. And you also know that he knows he can get away with lying because his party's not going to suffer. Politically, nothing is going to change in California. So why not lie?
So when I saw that over the weekend, I go, coincidence? Okay, we got a president. We can go through the books. Think about this. We go through the books and we can make up fraud.
It's on. It's not exclusive to New York.
Nope. We can find fraud somewhere. Now, this is just the Senate, showing that they care, so they can go to they can go, especially when we're talking about the Democrat Senate that's very worried about losing the Senate. They go, well, we've got another investigation. You know how many investigations they've had since I've been doing talk radio
on the oil industry
since '89?
It's been dozens and dozens.
Dozens of. What have they found?
Nothing. Every time they found nothing.
So they're doing it again. By the way, the public hasn't bought into it, but they continue. So what they're going to do is they're going to put more burdens telling these oil companies. I can see we're putting subpoenas on oil companies to hear based on what? And will they use lawfare again or the power of the Senate subpoena power to go after a company when there's no reason to go after them? What is the suspicion right now that there is collusion or price fixing in the oil companies?
Well, you think of the biggest enemies. You said it earlier. Everybody hates the oil companies, and we can't figure out why. Well, they're a big enemy of the left and prosecutors that are on the left. They would love to take the big oil down.
If you want to see where prices have skyrocketed, if you're looking at gasoline prices and dealing with automobiles, shouldn't they be investigating?
Yes.
Why? Chuck Schumer, National Grid just said they wish to have double-digit increases in electricity. It could be 20% increase in electricity. Mr. Schumer, where are you in New York?
If we're going to investigate former presidents, how about the one that said, under my plan of cap and trade, electricity rates would necessarily skyrocket?
Right. He
Barack
said he
Obama.
wants electricity to skyrocket. That's the goal of Democrats. Why aren't Democrats investigating themselves? because that's what President Obama said was the goal of Democrats was to skyrocket electricity prices. Why aren't they looking at why EVs cost so much?
Right.
The average consumer can't afford an EV.
Mm-hmm.
Why aren't the Democrats investigating that?
Gee, I wonder.
Because you're investigating yourself.
Exactly. Exactly. Sorry, bad cop.
You know, if there ever was a time when you could look where, you know, where a Rand Paul or something could increase the message, look at government right now. Everybody look at government.
Yeah.
Tell me what they're doing that's good.
Right. No, seriously.
When you look at where they stand on the issues now,
where is the good work being done?
and you can talk about the traditional, the Social Security is there as a backup for it. That's going bankrupt, folks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
No matter how you say it, they're going to have to drastically. And when they say, well, we can't change Social Security, yeah, they're going to change Social Security. Something's going to change.
Something's going to change.
Either fewer benefits or you're going to pay a heck of a lot more.
Yeah.
One or the other. You can't do it. That's math, since we're talking math.
Mm-hmm.
That's math.
Yep.
The number of people collecting with the money going in.
Right. Right.
It's that simple.
Yep.
And so, you know, it's but you just look at government, you just shake your head going, if there's ever a time to present to the American people, why, you know, you elect these people, they're making your life harder. Is that their goal?
We asked, going back to 2020 in the primary season, what do they want to actually do for you?
866-90 Red Eye.
This morning's USDA Farm Report is brought to you by House Products. Tested, trusted, guaranteed since 1920.
Supporting forest health, innovating the wood products industry. Purposes behind U.S. Forest Service grants, with the recent announcements of awards for 3 such grant programs.
171 awards for about $74 million. And those are our core grant programs that do help develop markets and strengthen industry.
Brian Brashaw of the Forest Service breaks down the awards in 3 categories: wood innovation grants, community wood grants, and wood products infrastructure assistance grants. He adds,
45% of our grants went to disadvantaged or underserved communities that are usually rural areas. 10 projects specifically went to tribes to have this local economic development, create jobs, help companies stay in business, strengthen industry, all while helping support the overall management of our forests.
I'm Rod Bain reporting for the U.S. Department of Agriculture in Washington, D.C.
This report brought to you by Cenex Fuels and Lubes.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Just got this from Hugh Hewitt's X post. Looks like, I don't know if he's in Central or whatever, but at least an hour ago. The avalanche of contributions to the Trump campaign continues. $70 million in small donations and more than $200 million total since the verdicts is the story this morning.
Wow. Yeah, there's your message right there. There's your response. Yeah, the first number, well over 70 million, because you're talking about grassroots, and I'd love to see the breakdown of how many of those were first-time political donors that have never donated any money politically in their life.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio. from the Uniden America Studios.
It's Showtime Radio. He's Eric Carly, and I'm Gary McNamara. So here we are, June 3rd, okay, and Trump won't be sentenced until July 11th, right?
Right.
July 11th is the sentencing date. I don't think, and there's really been no new polls out since, but I won't pay attention to polls probably till August, because I think they'll be fluctuating now because of this. I believe August is when you're going to be able to get an idea.
I think in terms of the accuracy, I do want to see the movement in the polls, how much movement there is right away.
I
just
would,
to see how people reacted to it.
I would also check to see how many independents versus Republicans versus Democrats that they have in these particular polls, because you and I have noticed this. We've in the past, it's like 33, 33, 33, like a third. Well, that's not accurate.
That's not how it falls out.
Right. And so you look at it and go, okay, well then how accurate is the poll? The movement will be important, but then the movement plus how, again, what the demographic makeup is of that poll is compared to what it was 3 weeks ago. I'm not saying that there's any type of manipulation going on,
but there's manipulation.
I just to take a poll fact checking. Let's say that's what I'll be trying to do here over the next couple of weeks. And I haven't seen. I've seen headlines of polls that not much has changed. If I see one more of the betting odds haven't changed. I don't care.
Yeah.
It's like I don't care about the betting odds.
Yeah, no thanks.
And I see them all the time in interactive polls on X because I follow them, and it's like I first get confused. I'm like, what do you mean? Trump's up 60-40 in that state? Oh, no, that's the odds he's going to win. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'm on a 20-point lead. No. Those are the odds. I think here's a problem for the Democrats. On every single issue, they have to lie. We talked about Biden initially coming out and saying that it was an Israeli plan, that Israel had come out with that plan.
Right.
And we didn't come out with the plan. We may be negotiating a plan with you people, but that's not our plan that you just came out with.
Right.
And so he lied about that. Why did he lie? Because he needs something that's a positive spin for him. When you look at inflation, what are they going to spin? We're going to go after the oil companies. We're going to go after and oil companies aren't making any more profit margin than they were before.
Right.
Neither is any major industry that they're accusing of gouging people. Inflation's gone up. Inflation is the fault of government. As Milton Friedman once said, you get major inflation for over 2 years, every single time it's all government policy. Just look at history. And so they're trying to shift blame, but on every issue out there, they've had to lie. They've had to lie to the American public about what's going on because, as we have stated before, the biggest enemy of liberalism is reality.
Yeah.
And everything's coming up. Economic reality is what's hitting right now. We don't have the money anymore. We need to borrow more money. Interest rates are up because we've spent so much money and because of the debt and because of the loose monetary policy. We see the inflation that we see today, which is stubborn. And you and I have been doubting this optimism over the last year or so, saying we don't see why they're saying all this optimism. Well, the optimism is for the sake of optimism because they're politicians and they always need to promote that things are getting better, even if they're not.
Right.
On this case here, the problem for the Democrats is what you saw over the weekend. Nobody can tell you what the president has been convicted of. They can't tell you the actions. They can't tell you what the jury has said. That's been one of the most. You even saw it on Meet the Press and on with George Stephanopoulos when the guests are going. We actually don't know what he was convicted of.
Right.
We don't know.
Right.
Jonathan Turley. We may never know ever what he is convicted of because it's not in the jury statement.
Right.
We don't know how they voted on what.
He said it could be 4, 4, and 4. It could be, who knows?
And so the problem is the Democrats, we read the story earlier from the New York Times, Democrats want the president to come out and talk about convicted felon, convicted felon. Well, the thing is, every time you bring that up, then the other questions come up, and the media starts asking, well, wait a minute, there's some problems with this case.
Yeah.
They don't want that.
Nope.
They don't, but the fact is, just like everything else, and as I talked about last week when you were out, Eric, I said, remember, we all thought that by the time we got to a year ago or 6 months ago, all you would hear is the twice impeached president thinks he can come back and win the presidency again. He was impeached twice in one term. The only twice impeached. Why won't they use that? Why didn't they use it over the last year? It's not effective.
Nope.
Why? People realize it's bogus. If you truly had, because the discussion is out there now, Democrats arguing among themselves, how hard should we hit this? Well, if you knew you had a slam dunk felony conviction and all the evidence was crystal clear to the public, there'd be no controversy.
Right.
You'd be shoving it down their throats every single day,
Yep.
as you should,
Yep.
because if you have a slam dunk argument for an issue or a criminal case, you slam dunk it. They can't. They know this can. They know it's backfiring against them already, and just the amount of it when you see $70 million in small donations and $200 million overall, and that was by. Well, I don't know when that $200 million was. Maybe that was by Sunday. Trump said. Larry Trump said $70 million Saturday. That would have been in the first 48 hours. But now it's $70 million in small donations and $200 million overall over a weekend. That's a lot of cash. That, by the way, that covers any of the president's appeals 100 times over.
Yeah, right.
But they can't win the argument on any issue, on any major issue, including Trump. They can't win the argument if they have to discuss it.
Right.
So they may throw it out, but just like everything else, you have a public that believes you have an administration that are pathological liars.
Yeah, sure. And that's this is the problem they're going to have is what they think is going to work isn't going to work. What did you see primarily Thursday evening and Friday in terms of a celebration, really? It was the people who were always against Trump. Where the needle starts to move is the people in the middle. If they see this as lawfare, and they move away from Biden in a big way. That's the problem that the left has, is that the reality of this sets in pretty quickly.
When you break it down, because people will, I had somebody the other day that I got back to on email that was saying, well, of course he should go to jail. He paid off a porn star. For what?
Right.
We didn't want it to get out. It's not illegal.
Right.
It's not? No. Well, it's wrong. We're not talking about what's wrong. We're talking about what's illegal. I don't want to get into the discussion that Dan Abrams had with Megyn Kelly the other day. Well, I'm not saying it was illegal, but it was wrong, Kelly. Megyn. So that's not what we're talking about.
A legal case.
Right, we're talking about a legal case. We're talking about lawfare being used. Remember, there's that slush fund that exists in Congress of taxpayer dollars to settle lawsuits.
Mm-hmm.
So people find that out. They go, really? Yeah, we talked about that years ago. Democrats didn't seem to be upset about it back then.
Mm-hmm.
Trump isn't part of that, though. But nobody seemed to be upset. We were at that point.
Right.
But the problem they have here is they can't win the actual argument. They wish to be louder and scream a couple of words, convicted felon, but they can't explain it.
Mm-hmm. No.
They don't feel they have to explain it, but when people are willing to listen and you explain it to them, you see their eyes glaze over going, you got to be kidding me. Really? That's what's going on here?
Right.
That's what's going on here.
Well, they believe this brand is going to influence the people that aren't paying attention. They and that's the game. The game is, well, if you keep, again, repeating convicted felon, or back in the day, twice impeached president,
right.
then people will be influenced by that. That's their hope. Well, when it gets into the reality, when you start asking questions going, okay, but what actually happened here? And this is what I was talking about a couple of weeks ago. If you come down with a verdict of guilty, now you're going to get the attention by default of the people who weren't paying attention. If you put him in jail July 11th, oh, wow. You've got everybody's full attention. And yeah, the far left is going to be dancing in the streets. They were never going to vote for Trump. Where do you move the needle? That's the question. And you're seeing right now the response from people in the donations. I said to a friend that I was with at the event at Shell Super Rigs on Thursday when the verdict came down, I said the fundraising right now on his site is going through the roof. And I was right. And it's about that's the grassroots. That's the individual. A number of them. You were saying that's roughly 30%, or at least early on it was roughly 30%.
Early on it was at least 30% people that had never donated before.
Right.
Which, again, extrapolate that
That's
out.
a huge percentage of people, if you think about it, that have never donated. And they feel compelled to do it.
And when you have people, I mean, you saw what Mitt Romney came out and said this was, bogus. Mitch McConnell did. Susan Collins did. You had many people.
I mean, Joe Manchin left the Democratic Party.
Yeah, Joe left the Democratic Party. That's over the weekend. And it had to be because of the Trump thing,
I'm
right?
sure. But, yeah, but that's all of that is, again, when you look at what's going on with the grassroots thing, that's what intrigues me. Because that's the message being sent.
It's not that case. It's not that hard of a case to understand. And I see people explaining it on Twitter. Oh, the other thing is, I have never seen, ever, the amount of attention paid to Hillary Clinton's campaign finance violation.
Oh, yeah.
With the Steele
that was a great point.
With
You
the
made that
Steele
point
dossier.
earlier, but
yeah, but I never expanded on it. But when I saw that over the weekend, I'm like, I've seen this more times of people explaining it.
Exactly. I saw the same thing.
Where were you back then?
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, because it's important to put all of that in line with everything that's been thrown at Trump. Especially when you pair her with Russian collusion.
Mm-hmm.
These are the things that we've been talking about for a long time. And you're getting people caught up on something they may not have followed. And that's important because what does it do? Well, that's changing hearts and minds because it's like, oh, my gosh, they did all that. And now he might go to jail over nothing? You're changing hearts and minds.
866-90-RED-EYE.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90-RED-EYE on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Carney, and I'm Gary McNamara. I was just reading Ramaswamy. And he had said that Biden could pardon Trump. And he's making the case that he was charged with state felonies, but the state felony is predicated on a federal law. So even though he wasn't charged, they couldn't charge him with a I don't know if that's true or not.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Because the conviction is not federal. The state crime.
It may be predicated
Right. I've
on
never
that, but if the charge is if the conviction is in a state jurisdiction, I don't know how that would work. He could be right. I don't know. I'm not sure. Yeah, I'd have to learn more about that.
Predicate is not charged with the federal. It's
Right.
I don't. By the way, I don't even know if is that even legal in New York State,
Yeah, not sure.
or would that be constitutionally legal to do what they did on a federal level, on a constitutional level?
Yeah.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One.